This is an open letter from a younger brother to the Zoroastrian community of India, so-called Parsi people. Here's the thing, folks. A dilemma that most small communities have to deal with, and the Parsi community of India and the Zoroastrian community of Iran, and every other small community that has to deal with, the main problem is the issue of criticizing the community. Because here's the reality is this. Those who don't like the community leave the community without criticizing it, because they don't see any point in it, because they're leaving the community, they don't like it for whatever reason. This is true regarding any small community of people. Those who don't like the community leave it without criticizing it, and most of the time without criticizing the community, and they just go on their merry way. And on the other hand, those who do like the community, those who like to stay, they never dare criticize the community, really criticize the community, because they don't want to be, pushed out. They don't want to be ostracized. They don't want to be blackballed. They don't want to be, they don't want to be segregated from the community, or detested by the community that they like to be part of. So as the result, any small community doesn't hear any criticism of itself from within, because those who are in, they don't want to be pushed out, ostracized, so they don't criticize. They go along with the flow. And those who are out, who don't like the community, they don't feel the need to waste time to criticize it. They just leave. So there is always this great possibility. One can say it's not a possibility, it's a probability. There is this great probability that the small communities all over the world, all small communities, at one point or other, they start going the wrong direction. They can start going the wrong direction. They will start going the wrong direction, just because there is nobody there to criticize. Nobody wants to criticize. As I said, those who don't like it leave, and those who stay because they don't want to be pushed out, they never dare criticize. So that's a problem that every small community has. And frankly, you gotta really like the community and not be afraid of being ostracized by the community in order to criticize it. I frankly like the community of Parsi people, Zoroastrian people, but I do see a lot of things that can be improved, a lot of issues that has come up through the years, and slowly these communities have gone astray, are moving in the wrong direction, to the detriment of the community itself. You see, when the community starts going in the wrong direction, you can tell, because you see the population drops, because everybody can tell right from wrong, more or less. So when the population drops, when the population is going down, when people start moving out, you can tell that this system is going the wrong direction. It's a lot like a neighborhood. When a neighborhood is, becoming let's say it's a great neighborhood, and then slowly over time, the neighborhood starts getting bad and worse. What happens, you can tell from the population drop in the neighborhood. Slowly people start moving out, and what you left with is shit. It works the same way with the small communities. When normal people, good people, average people start moving out, and eventually what you're going to be left with is shit. And so based on these facts, it's better for us to start fixing the community, not because what I say or what one particular person says. No, it has to be a group effort, especially group effort at the top echelon of the community, coming together and trying to put egos aside, put caste aside, and figure out a way to make the community, more pleasant to be part of. Try to make the community more consumer friendly, dare I say, more member friendly, less rigid, more logical. If we follow these steps in the Zoroastrian community, it can be it can become a more popular, more member friendly, and more liked by members and outsiders alike. So we have to criticize, and then the people, then the common people like me have to start criticizing the community, so the higher echelons of the community can get together and start finding answers to the questions that the common folks are raising. One of the things that I feel that Parsi people of India, the Parsi people has become questionable for me, and I think it has gone stray, is the fact that, here's the thing, folks. Once upon a time, in the history of the planet Earth, the caste system was maybe feasible, doable, feasible. Maybe it was the only way to do things. But it has long passed that point. And there are many reasons for why the caste system has long passed its prime, and it should be, we should get rid of it in the Zoroastrian community. Is that the main factor in caste system is it brings about division. You don't want to divide your public. Nobody, not small community, not large community, no community of human being wants to divide itself into layers. Yes, eventually you can say every community ends up in that way. Financial layers, social layer, cultural layers. Eventually every community will end up that way through time. But the reality is we as human beings should work against it, try to prevent the layers from forming. Because the simple fact is when a system is layered, it's weak. When a system is divided, it's weak. The British have this old saying that divide and rule. Now, if we are dividing ourselves, if we are dividing ourselves, we have taken half step for the British. For whoever wants to rule us, we are taking the step of dividing ourselves for them. They don't have to come and divide us. We have divided ourselves into different groups, different castes, and all they have to do is come and rule over us. So in reality, one of the reasons, in my view, that the British so easily were able to colonize India, but not easily colonize Iran, was this fact that India was already colonized because the Hinduism is based on its caste system. It's already weak and primed to be colonized. Divide and rule is already divided. All the British had to come in was to bribe some of the Rajas and kill the others, and and then start ruling the whole thing. So what we have to do is, not help the other guys, the bad guys, the opponents, not help them in ruling over us by not being divided. But on the other hand, the Iranians, it was after Islam, the British colonialism started recently for the past 500 years. So Islam had already come to Iran and got away with the caste system of the previous Zoroastrians. So, and that point of not being weak due to internal division was not there. So, in my view, one of the main reasons the British were not able to colonize Iran as opposed to colonizing India was the fact that Iranians were all the same, considered themselves all the same, but and not divided, more or less. But the Indians were already divided, an easy meal for a colonialist like the British. So, in other words, I'm trying to say is that what has happened to the Parsis of India is that they were in Iran before the Arabs came, and there was this caste system in between the Zoroastrians of pre-Islam, and once the Arab came, a bunch of you guys, a bunch of your ancestors got up and left Iran for India, Pakistan, India, and I read an article there are a few even in China. So China and Inner Mongolia, there's a little groups of Zoroastrians living over there as well. So my point is this. My point is that when you had gone to India, you had taken your own caste system, the Zoroastrian caste system of pre-Islam of Iran. You had taken it to India, and once there, your own caste system was emphasized by your environment, which was deeply based on castes. So what happened is that not only you didn't, mellow down the caste system, but it became even more rigid. Because the environment always affects the larger environments always affects the smaller groups. So as a result, you guys are highly rigid, still value caste system a lot more than you should. And this rigidity has been one of the reasons that the population has fallen. Rigidity means basically you're not member friendly, you're not customer friendly, you're not member friendly. So the basically, as I said before, a lot of people don't feel the group is beneficial to them, and once they feel the community is not beneficial to them, they leave without criticizing it because they just don't give a fuck. And those who do care to stay within the group somehow think it is still beneficial to them and do choose to stay in the group. They don't want to criticize it either because they don't want to be ostracized and pushed out of the group. So here's the thing, folks. The caste system has to go. As I said, the caste system divides people, and division is weakness. Now, as one of the results of this caste belief in the caste system that a lot of Parsis still go by and believe in, is that you somehow, when it comes to your relationship with the Zoroastrians of Iran, it's even worse, the situation, because you feel you're better than the Zoroastrians of Iran. And I came across this myself on a few occasions that I had contact with Parsi people in India and outside India. And I thought maybe it's me that you feel you're better than me, the whole population, Parsi population. You're basically a standoffish. It's sort of, the kind of standoffish that one expects from Queen Elizabeth, as royalty, as in like sort of like, oh, you're there, how are you? A little patronizing, a little standoffish, a little feeling higher and mightier, sort of like, not wanting to come off as unpleasant, but also at the same time standoffish, as if like dealing with an orphan cousin or an orphan boy. This is how you treat Zoroastrians of Iran. And I thought it was only me that felt this kind of cold shoulder from the Parsis of India. But then I talked to other Zoroastrians of Iran who had come across the Parsi people, and they all feel the same. They all felt the same, that you guys are standoffish, coldish, snobby, and you feel you're better. Somehow you're more pure, I guess. I guess you feel a bit more pure than the rest of us. More pure Zoroastrian, or more purebred, more pure Iranian, more pure Persian, although you're living in a fucking India. But and now there was this article that I read in a magazine that the Parsi people of India have all, not only they're not purebred, but more pure than Iranians, but they all have like 5% Indian DNA in their system. So, which means basically at the beginning of your travels to India, at the beginning of settling down in India, some grandmother somewhere, or many grandmothers have either forcefully or willingly have given up the family jewels to some Indian or other. And this happens when people migrate, when they're the minority in the society, and they migrate. Many times they're raped, their women are raped, and many times a lot of things happen. So my point is this: get off the fucking high horse. Parsi people, please get off the fucking high horse, so we can, meet eye to eye and maybe we get somewhere. Maybe the small community becomes better, becomes more friendly, and becomes more pleasant to be part of. That's one aspect. So stop this standoffishness, stop this high and mighty. I'm sure the same situation is prevalent within the Parsi community of India, within each other. I believe you guys are highly divided. Still, every family, every extended family, or every family thinks they are higher and mightier and better and more pure than the next one. So I'm sure there are very internal divisions within the Parsi people. I'm sure there is and this division shows from outside, and this division, as a result, again, all of you feel a little higher and mightier with regards to the Zoroastrians of Iran. So, and if these communities should get together, because as we said, being the same, not being divided, means more power. More power means you can take care of yourself, means a better existence for all of us. So in order for better existence for all of us, we need to have power, financial power, political power. And for that to happen, we first need to get together. And for getting together, we first have to meet at eye level. That means we first have to feel, all of us within the community have to feel we are equals. Even within the Parsi community, within the Zoroastrian community of Iran, and Zoroastrians of all over the world. It has to start from the beginning. We are equals, and then start from there and build on that. That's one thing. The second point I want to make, and the second point I want to make is with regards to the Iranians, folks. I've noticed that in conversation, in messages, and in posts that I see on the internet, it seems that the Parsi people still have this grudge. I can only call it a grudge against the Muslims of Iran. They feel that the Muslims, they feel that the Arabs have stolen Iran from them, the Iranian land from them. Well, maybe at the beginning, not maybe, it was at the beginning, the Arabs attacked Iran and killed a lot, converted the rest, and pushed you guys out of Iran. Or you guys left Iran at your own free will as refugees. But after that, Arabs mostly have left Iran. An invading army always goes back. In most armies, once they invade, they take whatever they can, and they leave, because usually the army has their families are back home, their culture is back home, the food that they like, the environment that they like, the music they like, whatever they like is back home. Home is always home. So any invading army eventually goes back home. It was true centuries ago, eons ago, millennia ago, and it's true now. And an invading army comes in, takes the spoils of war. If they win, or if they lose, they retrieve no matter what. Win or lose, they will retrieve. They want to go home. So it was the same with the Arabs. The Arabs invaded and they left. They ruled many years, and then eventually they left the ruling of Iran to Iranians, who obviously had converted to Islam. And for many years after that, they have kickbacks to the Arabs, the overlords. For many years, taxes were collected by the Iranians, from Iranians, and handed over to the Arabs for many years after invasion, and which is the case with every war. And eventually, but eventually, the land goes back to the people, the original people. Now the original people have already converted to Islam, so they are Muslims now, but they're Iranians. This is the thing. Parsi people of India, you should get this point. There are no Arabs living in Iran. They're Iranians. The same Iranians who used to be Zoroastrians are now Muslim, but they're Iranians. They're living there. They're Iranians. There are no Arabs in Iran. You should get this point clearly, that because I've noticed from the posts that many Parsi people put up, they basically say, oh yes, the Americans should attack Iran and should get the land back to us, the true Iranians, the Parsi people, and the Zoroastrians. The land should go back to Zoroastrians. Are you fucking kidding me? There are like 50,000, 100,000 Zoroastrians in Iran, left in Iran. There's another 100,000 Zoroastrians in, let's say, 200,000 Zoroastrians in India, another 300,000 Zoroastrians all over the world. We barely reach 1 million people. I'm sure we don't, but if we do, we barely reach 1 million people. So you expect a land that 80 million people are living on it. You expect some other power, superpower, attack these people, kill all of them, or run them out into Arabia, and then give that piece of land to Zoroastrians, 1 million people? Are you fucking kidding me? So there are some simple-minded Zoroastrians, Parsi people, think this way, and I just wanted to say that just get off it. This is crazy. The people living in Iran are Iranians who used to be Zoroastrians. Generations ago, they were forced to become Muslims, but they're Iranians. You shouldn't be advocating for their demise. On the other hand, what I can say is that these people, they're Muslim by name, but the Islam that is practiced in Iran is not the Islam that is practiced in Saudi Arabia. It's not an Islam that is practiced in other places in the world. Here's the thing. I'm sure many of you have noticed that every religion that goes anywhere in the world, it takes a lot of color from the locals. It takes a lot of, it picks up a lot of local traditions. Any religion that moves into any new population in the world, it picks up a lot of the local tradition. And there was an example it was clear as day what's going on, as a proof of my point, was a picture of these Indonesian Muslims. I saw recently a picture on the internet of these Indonesian Muslim girls. There was like 3 of them in the picture. They were in the airport or somewhere, and they're wearing these scarves on their head, and the shirt is all up to the wrist, and they're all covered up here, but then they're wearing shorts, and all the legs are out, and they're wearing very short shorts, and you can tell from this picture that, again, the religion has moved to these islands, but because the local tradition, which is based on the local environment, in a hot and humid Indonesia with 2 monsoons a year, you can't cover up all the time 24/7, because you basically molds will start growing on you. So they were wearing clothes like this. So this shows you how much the local tradition affects the religion that has been forced on the local, brought to the local, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's different in different cases, but however, a new perspective in life, which you can call a religion is a perspective in life. Where do we come from, what we're doing here, where we're going to go. This is all a perspective in life. So every religion has its own perspective in life. So any religion that is, brought to people or forced on people or whatever, always picks up some of the local traditions. I'm saying this, telling you this, is just to demonstrate how Islam that is being practiced in Iran, how is it a lot more similar to Zoroastrianism than you might think. Just a few examples of it should suffice. That, for example, there is a tradition in Zoroastrians that we have a lot of peers. We call them peer in Persian language. For the Zoroastrians of Iran, I'm not sure what the Parsi people call them. Basically, the idea is, as I said, it was an elder of the society who was very wise and somehow connected, somehow was a valued member of the society. The person dies, you put them in rest somewhere, and then you build a small building around it, and then later on years pass and people go to this building, this small building or large building or whatever, and pray in there and ask the elder, who has passed away many years ago, but still ask the elder for favors, and this is what we call peer. Zoroastrians call peer, and this has been modified in Islam, in Iranian Islam, into Imamzadeh, which basically means the guy was related by blood somehow to the prophet of Islam, Muhammad or whatever, or his descendant. So somehow, and nobody can prove it, and it's not provable. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? It's just the guy who say, yeah, he was somehow connected to him, and they call him Sayyid, which is basically saying, yeah, I'm somehow my DNA is somehow connected to the prophet. You gotta take a lot of salt with it. Not a grain of salt, but like a boatload of salt with it. But the point is this, that the idea of having an elder die in one generation and the next generations down the road would come to his graveyard, to his grave, to the building built on his grave, to ask for favors and pray and whatever. This tradition is an Iranian tradition, goes pre-Islam. So the only thing that has happened is they've changed the name and they've changed the reference, that who the fuck is sleeping under this dirt over here. It used to be Pir, Zoroastrian Elder, blah blah blah, who was very held dear to his people, and now he's dead. Now you can go to his grave and ask for favors and pray and this and that. That has changed into Imamzadeh, which same thing, just different reference. That this is somehow this guy who's dead, ask for favor, pray on his grave and ask for favors because he's somehow connected to the founder of Islam. But most of them are not, because as we said already, most of the Imamzadeh Iran, these are all Iranians, elders who have died, and now they have become Imamzadeh. So my point is this. This is one example of how Zoroastrian tradition has passed on into Islam. There is no such thing as Imamzadeh in Islam that is practiced in Turkey or that is practiced in Saudi Arabia or uh, Indonesia or Malaysia or anywhere else Islam has went between the is practiced between the population. So this is one of the reminiscence of Zoroastrianism in Islam, that there is every village has got an Imamzadeh. Every bigger cities have got multiple, dozens, tens of Imamzadehs all over the city. Every little, a lot like the tradition of India, Hindus in India, the same tradition. They have these little prayer boxes, you can call them, prayer buildings. There's little temples that every one of these the priest caste can build a small temple in front of his yard and have people donate stuff so he can feed his family with the money, with the donations. Same thing. It's anybody can build an Imamzadeh and have people come and give a little money and donate a little money, donate a little stuff, and pray and hope that the Imamzadeh would take care of their favors. So that's one tradition. Other traditions, there are many other traditions that has passed through the Zoroastrianism into Islam that is being practiced in Iran by Iranians. And another practice is the fact that Zoroastrians of Iran, we have this practice in Zoroastrianism that for many years after a person passes, we celebrate, or not celebrate, or we remember him by getting together, making some food, eating some of it, but most important of all, leaving some food in a little area near the group, and we have that food. We think of that food as for the person who has died, who has left us, and as if like the person who has died, would his spirit or her spirit would come around and smell the food and somehow enjoy the food that we have prepared, some of the food that we have prepared. But the thing is, this is a Zoroastrian tradition, remembering the dead in this way, with food and getting together with food and leaving a little food aside so the dead would be remembered, or their spirit will come around and have that food that we set aside for them, be around it. Now, this exhibited more or less the same way with regards to Muslims in Iran. They go to the graveside of their dead and perform more or less the same ceremony, leave some food over there or whatever for the dead. Either leave it over there and come back, or stay there, leave it, eat it, whatever. But the whole idea of going to the graveside and bringing food with you and offering the food to the spirit of the dead, this is a Zoroastrian tradition. It has nothing to do with Islam. It's not practiced in Saudi Arabia or Turkey or Indonesia or Malaysia. It's only being practiced in Iran, some parts of Iraq, and some parts of Afghanistan. Well, you can say Shiite Islam is basically a Zoroastrian Islam. It's an Islam with a Zoroastrian, some Zoroastrian traditions mixed in it. Just like the Indonesian Islam is a Islam with some Indonesian or Malaysian culture mixed into it. As I said, the women who wear scarves with short shorts. Same way it has worked with Iran. So, and they have many similarities between between the Shiite Islam, where Shiite Islam is, and if you look at where exactly the Shiite Islam is exactly more or less where Zoroastrian, the base of the Zoroastrian Empire was. So the Islam that has come over from Saudi Arabia into this area that was previously Zoroastrian has got, surprise, surprise, has got some Zoroastrian flavor to it, and it's called Shiite Islam. And the whole idea, for example, in again, Shiite in Islam, the Saudi Arabian Islam, nobody is worth anything in the whole history of Islam. The only person they value is Muhammad, and then the house of God, the Kaaba, whatever they call it, in the middle of Saudi Arabia. That's the only thing that is important to them. But in Shiite Islam, beside that, there are many Imams as we already went over it. These are the same Imams, the same peers, the same the elders. And many of these elders, the smaller ones that are all over Iran, fine. There are bigger ones like Reza, which I guess he was the eighth generation after Muhammad. It was Reza. His grave is in Iran, is in Mashhad. It's basically, again, one of the bigger Imams which is more or less everybody is definite that he was blood related to the big guy, the first guy, Muhammad. But and then there are other ones of the same family, which everybody is more or less sure they are blood related to Muhammad. These are all in Iraq. In Karbala, it's Hussein and Hassan and Jafar and Taqi and whatever. So my point is this valuing and this this whole idea of valuing the dead to who have had some value in their time, honoring the dead who are the wiser or the elders of their time. This is a Zoroastrian tradition. The Saudi Arabian Islam doesn't value any of the elders of the past. It has no building in their name, only Muhammad and then the Kaaba, which is the house of God. That's it. Forget about the rest. This valuing different Imams, peers of generation after generation, valuing these smaller guys who were the leaders of their time for generations after that, and building a building in their name and going to that building and praying and asking for favors. This is all Zoroastrian tradition. And it's being practiced only in where the Shiite Islam has a say in. And these are the places like Iran, like Iraq, like some parts of Afghanistan, like Syria, like Lebanon, where this is exactly where the Zoroastrian Empire was. The area that Zoroastrian was the base of the Zoroastrian Empire still is more or less Zoroastrian through Shiite Islam. Still has a Zoroastrian some Zoroastrian traditions are being practiced, be it through what they call Shiite Islam. So please stop this idea that the Arabs have taken over Iranian land and the Arabs are living there and the Muslims are all Arabs. And no. These motherfuckers are Iranians. They're practicing a lot of Zoroastrian practices. They know it as Shia Islam, but they're more or less Zoroastrian practices that is being practiced under a different banner. So let's not encourage any more bloodshed in Iran, in Middle East, and let's not encourage the killing of the Iranians. These are all descendants of Zoroastrians, and they're still practicing some of the Zoroastrian practices of the past. That's another point. Another point that I wanted to make here is that a lot of Zoroastrians of Iran, and especially now I will later on I will make this point in Persian as well, so they get it too. This point is regards to the elders of the Zoroastrian population. Folks, I've noticed that a lot of Zoroastrians of Iran criticize the Muslims, especially the Muslim elders, as to why these motherfuckers keep, going into details of what is right and what is wrong, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. You should very details. They get the elders of Islam, Shia Islam, or I'm sure other branches of Islam as well. They get into details of people's life as to what to do and what not to do in case of this, like this, in case of that, like that, and they consider it as a laughable, as a joke, as a it's not important, as infringement on personal rights or personal decisions. But here's the thing, folks. The reality is that the common man needs to be told stuff. The common man doesn't have time to think. The common man is common. The everyday hassles of life it takes up most of his time. So the common man is not intellectually gifted to know right from wrong in detailed aspects of life. And the common man is always looking for an easy way out. So if you don't define, if you don't get into details of life and tell the common man what to do and what not to do, you can be sure that the common man is going to cut corners and always take the wrong decision, because the wrong is always easier than the right. Going the wrong way is always easier than doing the wrong thing is always easier than doing the right thing. Is more convenient, is more profitable. Doing wrong is you always at least in the short term, doing the wrong thing in the short term is always easier, more profitable, more convenient. So, and the common man, given the choice, a common man is very short-sighted, thinks short-term. So the common man will always make the wrong decision because it pays off better in short term. So in order to prevent that, and we know when the societies, most of the societies start taking the wrong decisions just because it's easier, more profitable in the short term, the whole society is going to go awry, go off the cliff. Slowly, the society will go off the cliff when everybody starts taking shortcuts, starts lying, because it's more profitable, it's easier, it's more convenient. So in order to prevent that, the elders of the religion, elders of the nation, elders of the group, elders of the top brass have to actually sit down, not once, not twice, on a weekly basis. Tell the common man in details what is wrong, what is right, in details. To make sure the common man doesn't cut corners. doesn't take the easy route, doesn't lie for more profits. And I say this because two reasons. One, I've noticed that the elders of Zoroastrian people, you guys don't bother. You guys could care less. You are detached from the common Zoroastrian man because, again, back to the caste system, you feel high and you're sitting high and mighty on your horse, and you feel it's not your responsibility. It's your responsibility to sit in some Adurian, sit in some temple, sit somewhere, and pray a little, and then collect some money, some donations, and blah blah blah. Folks, being a leader of the society, if you want that society to be if you want the society to be to go the right way, to be relevant, you have to put on your pants, put on your big boy boots, and get in the middle of the society and try to guide it by words. And that means you have to start communicating with the common Zoroastrian folks. You have to start guiding the common Zoroastrian folks in detail. In other words, I'm telling to the Zoroastrian priests that you have to get out there. You have to get out there. You have to put in the work if you want to guide your society to a better place. Because from what I've seen, on one hand, the priest class, the leaders of the Zoroastrian society, either in India or outside India or in Iran, they are standoffish, like in the rest of the Zoroastrian society. They're standoffish, and they don't feel the responsibility that they should guide, they should care about the everyday life of the common Zoroastrian folks. And they don't feel it's their responsibility. And they feel, on the other hand, that, oh yeah, good words, good thoughts, good deeds, that's it. It should be enough. No, it's not enough. The common man interprets the daily issues that they come up with, they interpret it the way that it's more profitable to them. It's not more beneficial to them. So they're always cutting corners. I've known so many Zoroastrian people that lie on the not only daily basis, on the hourly basis, on the I'm talking about Zoroastrians like 2 lie an hour. They lie on hourly basis. And they it's a common man, because they're common, they don't understand, they're not intellectual, and they feel, they see that lying is more profitable in the short term. So the whole idea of good words, good thoughts, good deeds, it's on the back of their mind, but in the front of their mind, it's more profit, easier, more convenience, so they lie on hourly basis. And they call it white lies, and no, these are not harmful lie, because it's white lie because I'm making more profit. Somehow many Zoroastrians have reached this conclusion that if it's if by lying I can make more profit, I can call that lie a white lie, or that doesn't count. In business, I heard the Zoroastrian tell me that, oh no, in business is different. In business, you can lie to make more profit. That's no problem. That doesn't come under the category of good words, good thoughts. That doesn't count because it's business. Who the fuck said that? And that's where you can reach this conclusion that this is the shortcoming from the priest class of the Zoroastrian people, from the priests who basically haven't got this point across to the common Zoroastrian man that a lie is a lie. Just because you're making profit off of the lie, that doesn't make the lie not a lie. So this simple concept has escaped most of the common Zoroastrian folks. And this just this, if I didn't have any other example, just this shows that there is this lack of communication between the Zoroastrian higher echelons, the Zoroastrians who's supposed to be guiding this Zoroastrian society, and the common folks in the Zoroastrian society. There is this lack of communication. The point is not getting across. They're doing their own thing, and the common Zoroastrian folks are going their own way. This has to stop. Some people needs to put on their big boy boots, get in the middle of this, and start defining good from bad in everyday aspect of life for the common Zoroastrian folks, the common people who don't have the time or the intellect to think for themselves. You have to tell them what to do and what to do, because they don't have the time to think, and they see that it's more profitable for them to lie. You have to get into between this and break everything down for the common man, if you don't want the common man to go the wrong way. There is no easier way to do this. The leaders of Zoroastrian community have to start writing books, giving lectures on a weekly basis about the everyday matters of life, about the everyday aspects of life. Doesn't matter what. You can cover on a weekly basis, you can cover anything and everything, but you should tell the common man, somebody should sit over there and define what is right and what is wrong for the common man, because the common man is too stupid and lazy to do the right thing.